What is up, guys? Protobro here, infamous brother to Megabro, and this is going to be the first of several tutorials teaching you how to play Crusader Kings 2. I know there's a few other tutorials out there on YouTube, and I'm sure they're fantabulous, but I figured I'd do my own since I'm doing a Let's Play right now, and perhaps you'd be interested in learning how to play the game. So I'll just give you my spin on how to do this. I'm going to do this tutorial mainly through William the Conqueror, who is up here, King William the Conqueror of England. So this was after his invasion of England. He is otherwise known as King William the Bastard, or King William, Duke of Normandy. This tutorial I'm going to show you just a basic overview of the Overview tab here, and then in future videos we'll get more specific with regards to the various aspects associated with this overview. First, just to give you a heads up, if you're new to the game, you're not really familiar with it, we have this on Realms, the Realms tab here, so you can adjust all this stuff here, but we're on this right now, so you can see the political landscape. So this gives you a really political overview of who owns what. So you got France, Holy Roman Empire, England. On the top left here is your ruler, whether it's king, county, duke, whatever. We'll go over that in the next overview in terms of your specific character options, but we are currently King of England right here, and there's a picture of our guy. These options up here are associated specifically to your kingdom, so these would all deal with your actual Kingdom of England. So you go through these, and we'll do that in the next video. You'd go through those and it would deal with specifically your kingdom and not the overall entire world as known at the time of 1066. These things here pop up from time to time as you're playing through the game, and these are your immediate options that are available to your ruler. So for example, if you were to click it, new important decisions available, it'll open up this tab right here, which will show you some of your options that are available to you. So it's just basically a notification to let you know, hey, there's something I can do I want to do it? So titles to be created, for example. This is telling you that, hey, you got titles that you can create, and then you can just click through it and it'll give you all the different options available of titles to create. And so on and so forth. So just be aware that when these pop up, it's just a notification telling you that there is either something concerning that could happen in your kingdom soon and maybe you want to deal with it, or a new event is available to you that you may want to deal with. Right? On the top right here is just an overview of your kingdom, the amount of money that you have, your monthly balance, so how much money you're making per month. 29 gold a month is a lot of money. Prestige and Piety, these are two character traits. These are specific to your ruler, and again we'll go into these in more detail when we talk about your specific character, but just bear in mind that these two here are directly correlated with what your ruler actually does. So depending on the kingdom that you play, the culture that you play, this may have different importance. So for example, if you play as a tribal ruler, so like some of the Norse, then your prestige is going to be more advantageous to you in terms of how you play the game, perhaps, than feudal. Whereas money is going to probably be a little bit more important to you, and so on and so forth. Same thing with Piety, right? Piety deals with religious influence. The Middle Ages were heavily religiously influenced, and so depending on the style with which you want to play, you may want to focus on your Piety a little bit more than perhaps otherwise. Notice there it talks about diligence, proud, cynical, temperate. All those are traits specific to your character, so depending on the type of traits that your character has may influence the piety that you develop each month. Same thing for prestige. Notice there we have crowned, proud, so those are influences that'll increase the monthly prestige. There's also events you can do like holy wars, or just winning wars that'll increase your prestige. Piety, joining a crusade, or giving a baron, or creating a new church, those sort of things, that'll increase your piety. So it's not just specific to a monthly bonus. There are some things you can do throughout the game that'll boost these up. Notice Demesne, I was never quite sure how to pronounce that word. Size, we can hold 8 under our rule. We only have 21. We'll go over more specifically what that means in the later video. Just kind of be aware that if that's red, you don't want that red, because you will suffer penalties for that. And that's your vassal limit. So you can have 23 vassals under your rule at any given time, and we have 17. Again, we'll talk about how basically kingdom management in another video and how to manage these. And then here our realm size, right? This just tells us our realm size overall. And our score. So as you play throughout the game, you'll get a war score, and the war score is kind of, you know, one way that you might want to gauge your success in the game. You know, maybe you're going for a certain war score before you terminate the game or whatever. Winning wars, battles, certain events throughout the game, you know, children, the length of the game you play, all that stuff affects your war score. Here, obviously, if you push spacebar, it'll get the game to start, and then you can up the speed, all that sort of stuff, right? So notice here we have this tab. We have high priority messages and low priority messages. So this is a nice little customized feature that you can actually adjust if you go into your message settings. And I'm not going to do that here for you, but I just want you to be aware that if you want to affect what's considered a high priority message and what's considered a low priority message, you can go in here and affect those sort of things and customize that for you. Pretty typical feature of Paradox. You know, they do this for a lot of their games where you can really influence the notifications that you receive either down here. These are kind of like, I guess, you know, if this is a low priority, then this is your kind of other priority stuff. So these things will pop up anytime something major happens here. Then you'll get your low priorities, which you'll actually have to click to see. And then the rest of the stuff happens down here. And again, you can affect that through your message settings, which should pop up here, here, or here. Alright. So we close out of that. Or what we can do is we can open list of messages, which will give you all the list of messages that have been popping up here, which is nice. So maybe if you accidentally click that, but you're like, oh, I want to see a whole list of things. You got like 12 of them, then you'll have it all right here. And so you can just click through. Okay. Here is something you can either lock or unlock. So if you put your scroll over it, it'll tell you basically everyone in your kingdom, all your different counties here. So all these here, instead of having to individually click through, you can, one of your options available to use go like this, and you can lock it if you want to keep it open. We're going to do that. So open Outliers category configuration. So again, you can do this. Again, customize. So maybe you want to see where the armies are too, right? So here's our armies. Take out armies, and I'll show you which armies have been raised and so forth. So again, another way to customize this menu if you want to use it. I don't use it too often. I would say the best time to use this is actually when your kingdom is pretty large and you don't have the time to micromanage it like you'd like to. Okay, so let's let that on. Alright, down here, this is probably the most important section of this overlay map here. First, before we get to this, just really quick here. So if you click a county here, it'll pop up the county tab, which will give you a whole bunch of information down here. I will go over this in more detail in the next episode dealing with, you know, kingdom management. But just be aware that in order to pull this tab up, you have to click a county, and then what it'll do is it'll give you the information about that county, all of which is right here. Who the ruler is, so forth. So notice here, he is our vassal. He rules this here. Notice that. We do not actually control this county. We control this county though, because here we are. So, all right. Now down here, this bottom one. Notice here we can pull this window up and down if you want. You can do next song down here. I was actually enjoying that song, but just want to demonstrate to you. Next song. And then you got all these different tabs here. Alright, so we'll go through these one by one. First, notice that if you find a tab that you're using particularly often and you want a quick reference to it, you can just slide them in here and click and drag. So for example, if we're really interested in direct vassals, you can just click that one there and then just click it. It'll give us this tab here. Or if we're interested in religious affiliation, you could do that. Alright, so let's go through each one of these one by one though first. So terrain. Very important when it comes to battles. So, for example, the Scottish have a lot of pikemen. You want to be fighting your battles in forests, preferably, as pikemen. And so you would, you know, maybe you'd look for a landscape that has a forest to, you know, do a battle. So here, if you notice, put your mouse over here, it says hills, plains, right? All that sort of stuff. So that's this first tab here. It just gives you kind of an eyeball of what's where. Realms, which I typically play most frequently with this tab on. This again just gives you the political landscape of who owns what. So, for example, Wales here, right? There isn't a single king of Wales just yet. There's several different ruling bodies here. Whereas in England, we've got most of England locked down. here. So that just gives you the realm. Diplomatic relationships, so this will just tell you who you're at war with and who you're friends with. So notice yellow here, we have some sort of relationship with them. I'm not quite sure what it is, but that'll just kind of clue you in that, hey, there's something either a non-aggression pact or otherwise that you have associated with that particular body. Alright, so religion, we already kind of clicked on that one briefly, but if you do that, you scroll out, it'll give you the religious landscape for the map. So notice here, if we scroll out, we've got Buddhists and Hindu, and then down here the Sunnis, Coptics, Catholics, and so forth. Alright, so that'll be important in another video when we talk about religion, how it influences the game, and so forth. Religion will be its own video though, so that'll be separate. Cultures, very important. So notice French, Occitan. That's not all French. Why is that important? Because if the French were to move south and take some of this territory down here, even though this is all French, your county may suffer a potential revolt modifier down here because the ruler is French and the culture is supposed to be French, but they're Occitan culture. Or, you know, if you're, for example, if we conquer Wales, they're Welsh, right? Well, we're Anglo-Saxon. So that means that any kind of vassals or people or Welsh that we have ruling over, there'll be a negative opinion modifier against us because we are Anglo-Saxon. And so what you will want to do is you want to move your people into these areas and turn this Anglo-Saxon to address that cultural difference. And there's different ways to address the cultural difference, which I won't get into in this video, but just be aware that there are cultural differences. At some point, as you expand your kingdom, you will encounter those, and you're going to want to keep that in mind and, you know, kind of have a way to deal with those. So for example, if we were to conquer Ireland, they are Irish, not Anglo-Saxon, and therefore we will have some negative modifiers from that until we deal with it. Economy. So economy kind of deals with really two things, this tab here. It overlaps with trade, so I'll kind of do both here. Economy just tells you the health of the county. So Kent is a wealthier county. See, 46 total tax income. York 52. Then say here, which is 24. All right, so that economy will tell you basically the economic strength of your kingdom or your enemy's kingdom. Maybe give you some idea of how you want to conquer, or what you want to target, or maybe what you want to beef up as far as your kingdom management is concerned. De jure duchies, kingdoms, and empires. I'm going to cover these all at the same time. All this means is that each duchy, so these are a duchy, and if you're not familiar with those terms, you have basically in Crusader Kings, and I'm going to focus on the Western culture language, so it might be a little called something different in the Muslims and in Muslim faith, Indians up here, but basically the whole theorem is you have a county level, which is like right here. This one province is a county, so that'd be a count might rule that. Then you have a duchy, which is someone who rule overseas. So like this guy here, so he's Duchy of York. He has Northumbria. So here, no, where is he at? Northumbria. Okay, so interesting. Okay, so he actually rules over 2 duchies. Looks like. No, he doesn't. All right, ignore me. Let me find something less complicated. Here we go. Let's go with this guy. He's got 2 duchies too. Does anyone not have 2 duchies? This guy. All right. So he is the Duchy of Huntington, which means he oversees these 3 provinces. And then he has, as what he actually rules over is this county here, these counties here. But so all you need to know is from the purposes of the hierarchy, you'll have a count which rules 1 county, a duke who oversees multiple counties, and then a king, which is what we are, which oversees multiple dukes and multiple counts. And then finally an emperor, which has 2 or more kingdoms. Or maybe it's 3 kingdoms. I think maybe you need 3 kingdoms. But an emperor will oversee, you know, 2 or more or 3 kingdoms, and so that means he might rule over multiple kings. Like here, the Holy Roman Empire is an actual empire, and he oversees, let's see here, so it's a little bit different there, but he should be overseeing kings, which will probably end up happening once the game gets rolling. All right, so now de jure, all de jure means is that these areas here, let's see here, good, beautiful. So Cumbria, right, is a part of the de jure duchy up here of Northumbria. So Northumbria is a de jure for these. So because the Scottish have Cumbria currently, this duke, and also us because we oversee the duke, have a war claim on that county because again, is it a de jure part of it. So one strategy in the game may be to create a duchy so you have a, because you basically need an excuse to go to war in this game. You can't just declare war, depending on who you play as. But if you're playing as the Western European culture, usually you need an excuse to go to war, whether it's a claim through inheritance or like this case here where it's a de jure, right? So notice kingdom, right? Cumbria is also a part of England as far as the de jure. We are the King of England, and it is currently held by the Scottish, and so therefore we have an excuse to go to war with Scotland over that particular county. So that's what de jure means, right? Just think when you see de jure, if you have a duchy or a kingdom and somebody else possesses a county and you have a de jure and it's within your de jure kingdom or de jure duchy, you have a reason to go to war. As you can see here, press de jure ducal claims. And I'll flesh this out a little bit further in the Kingdom Management tab too, or tutorial. Revolt Risk is pretty self-explanatory. It'll tell you if you have counties that are susceptible to revolt, which is also illustrated down here. Revolt Risk, 1%. Very, very low, right? 1% chance per month or year that they'll revolt. Dynasties, this will tell you basically if, you know, if we had family that was ruling in, say, Spain somewhere, it would tell us that by going to Dynasty. So later in the game, it's a good way to kind of keep track of who is related to who. So Capet rather. So opinion. So we see here that as far as in our kingdom is concerned, these two dukes aren't too happy with us. So we would have to, you know, maybe click on them, figure out why they're not happy with us. But this is a good tab to use, quick tab to give you a really quick heads up of if you have any problems within your empire that you want to deal with before they actually start creating problems for you. Direct vassals. So notice the difference here. Realm tab gives you your entire realm. Direct vassals is very helpful though because it'll tell you who is under you and then how many counties they possess. So notice here, these guys only have one county each, so they're counts. That's all they are, right? Because they have one territory each. Whereas he is a duke and has, or oversees at least, 4 different counties. So he reports directly to us, but he could assign 3 counts that would report directly to him. And then when we call him to war or whatever, he would then require his 3 counts to assist us or whatnot. But this is a good way to kind of give you an idea of the power breakdown, because you don't want to encounter what's called a super duke, for example, where you have this guy here who possesses, you know, half your kingdom, because then he can create some real problems for you down the road. Trade, we already talked about economy. Trade's really important too, because this might give you an idea of the counties you want to conquer or beef up economically. And as you can see here, it just kind of gives you a rundown. So notice here, Flanders is a really good place that you're, Bruges is a really key place you may want to control, right? Because look at all the trade that goes in and out of here. And so if you control this place, then you can invest in it pretty heavily and perhaps make a significant amount of monthly income out of that one county. And the same here, right? Middlesex, we've got a lot of trade going in and out of Winchester and so forth. Right. Governments, again, feudal, right? This will tell you who the feudal lords are. Feudal greatly affects your gameplay. Same with tribal, which we'll talk about in a later episode. But just be aware that if you're a feudal lord, there's certain restrictions and limitations that'll be imposed on you, but then also obviously significant benefits. And the same thing is tribal, right? It's just a different way of playing. But depending on which one you are, whether you're tribal, feudal, nomad, it's going to affect the different options that are available to you throughout your gameplay. I'd say I typically play feudal or tribal, but what's really fun about this game is that you can really play imperial or nomadic or tribal, you know, and play it completely almost like a different game, really. Defensive packs. So what defensive packs are is essentially once your aggression level becomes too high, your enemies will form up defensive packs because they're afraid of you, they're threatened by you, and by establishing those defensive packs, if you declare war on one of them, then the other ones will join in as well. So it's kind of a defensive mechanism. I'm not quite sure at what point your threat gets to the point where they do that, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more later. And then finally, Epidemics. Epidemics is definitely a thing now with Reapers, the Reapers Do DLC release. So if you play with that on, Epidemics will be an issue throughout the game. I think it's pretty realistic considering the you know, 1066 and the era that this game was done, and so forth. Again, you can click and drag these, put these here if you have specific ones you want. You can lock this so it hides. And then finally, just really quick here before I conclude this video, you have these options down here too. So find character, which we'll go into kingdom building and establishing court and stuff. I'll talk about this more specifically later. But you can find characters through various means and methods. Same thing with titles. So if you see something down here, say, you know, here, or here, say a county changed hands or someone inherited a certain county, you can go down here and type it in to figure out what's going on. Home province, so it'll take you there. It's a quick thing there. A ledger is a quick breakdown of all the different aspects associated with your empire. So as you get bigger, obviously you're probably going to be using this a lot more. Also notice too that this also gives you the full rundown of everything's going on the map. So you can look at all the religions and so forth. Characters, dynasty, direct vassals, all that stuff. That's this one here, or rather the ledger. Main menu is pretty self-explanatory, and then finally open Chronicle, which this is pretty fun. This is why I just want to cover this very briefly. This will give you a history of your family. So each time a major event happens in your game, it will be chronicled, which means you then can go back out and you can go back in, you know, 10, 20, 30 years in the game and go back and read about the things that your family has accomplished. So that's pretty cool. I think it's, you know, it's a fun way to kind of document what your family does throughout the game, and then kind of go back and check it out. Then you can even export it. So I imagine you probably would export it and then you'll cut and paste it onto a blog or Facebook or whatever it is, however you wanted to save it. But that'd be a way to do that. So this is Chronicles. This is pretty fun to check out. You'll see me refer to this fairly, you know, from time to time during my Let's Plays, because again, it kind of documents the history of your family. So with that, that's the first tutorial. Just a brief overview of your, you know, overall main page here, your overall tab. Hopefully this was informative. In the next video, we're going to talk about managing your kingdom and how to do that. So we're going to focus pretty much up here in the top left corner of that video. And then after we talk about managing your kingdom, we'll talk about specifics with regards to your character. So there'll be some overlap between managing kingdom and your character play. But I do think it'll be advantageous to kind of split those into two separate tutorials. And so the next one will be managing your kingdoms, and then after that we'll talk about your character specifically and go from there. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if this was helpful. And also please, you know, as we go through these tutorials, let me know if you have questions about the game or things that I did not address so that I can address them in later videos. It's hard to remember what it was like playing this game when I first played, because it was a long time ago and I put a lot of hours into it. So thanks for watching, guys.